Yo, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Golden State Warrior Fan Room, presented to you by myself, Jeremy. You can follow me on X at R2R30111. You can follow my guy Justin here at the Package AG. He's a regular at this point. We always chopping it up about our Warriors. And yeah, it's kind of I won't say a lot to dive into, but it's some interesting topics to discuss. It's been a free week since our Warriors got eliminated, but we finally here to discuss that as well as previewing the offseason a little bit, like what those guys need to do to get better and compete with the elite talents in his league. So, with that being said, my guy Justin, how you doing today, my guy?
Pretty good. Always a pleasure to join. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm doing all right.
yeah, that's what's up, man. But straight out the gate, man, let's talk about our Warriors, man. That Minnesota series, obviously, things didn't go as we wanted it to. We got gentlemen swept. Steph Curry went down. And it was an interesting series to say the least. Guys was just playing out their mind. To be more exact, Julius Randle is like he had a magnet ball. That's the way it felt. But talk to
hmm
me, man, about that series. Like, what was your thoughts when Steph Curry went down? Like, did anything particular stood out to you about that?
Um, I mean, when the injury initially occurred, you just hoped that it wasn't anything serious. Turns out that it was. When you see a hamstring out there, you immediately think, it's going to be an extended period before the player can come back,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
you don't want to rush him back and things like that. So,
Hmm.
initially keeping hope alive that he can come back, but kind of reality setting in the back of your mind is like, well, he probably not going to make it back in time. And you shift your thought process to, okay, can they at least extend the series enough time that he can come back?
Yeah,
I thought they had a chance to do that, particularly in game 3.
game three. Yep.
Yeah. And they just didn't do it. I think, if they can run that game back, I think Draymond definitely would like to run that game back. He didn't have the
Yes.
best game.
Yes.
Um, but just overall looking at the series, it doesn't really change my opinion on the team as a whole, right? This core, the
Hmm.
the the foundation of the team. Draymond didn't have the best series. Jimmy had great moments, but didn't have the best overall series. And I think that's kind of indicative of just filling out the roster a little bit better. That should be a priority over the offseason.
Hmm.
You never know what can happen in terms of who could become available, and then things can really change. But
Yeah.
just looking at it from the outside in, this core I think is still a really high level core, and if you fill in the
Mhm.
pieces around them adequately, I think they still got a shot to compete for the title.
I mean, that is fair, and I agree with that statement you made about Game Three. All we had to do was get one game.
hmm
One game, and that was our chance to do that. Jimmy Butler, he was pretty good in that game. I think he had like 30. He was aggressive. Kaminga had 30, or if not 30,
Yeah,
close to 30.
I
But
think
the
he did.
fact of the matter is, it was all on Draymond, in my opinion. Like, he has to be better in a situation like that. Julius Randle was killing him pretty much the whole series. But in a game like that, bro, you have to be more like aware of what's at stake here. Like, dang, man, Steph, he's down. And that was probably their best chance, of still in the game in that series, and they blew it. So that definitely hurts. And Draymond talked about it on his podcast, like he wanted to run that back, like you just said. So it
hmm
sucks that we didn't go out there and get it. We did still game one. That was a game Steph got hurt. And to your point about the injury, man, hamstring injuries are very tricky. You have to be very careful with those type of injuries, bro. You don't want things to kind of just get worse than what it already was. And I think in that case, if we were to steal one game, Steph, he would have played, but I don't know if it would have been the smartest decision to do that because you kind
Right.
of just want to veer like long term. Like, is this a smart thing to do right now? Like, obviously, I know you guys want to compete for a title, but just long term thinking, like, is it a smart thing to do? And if I'm being honest, I don't think so, man. I think it just would have
hmm
been best to just kind of rest him for the rest of the postseason and just come back at it again next year. Retool the roster. We got our guy, we got our second option in Jimmy now.
hmm
You're still gonna have Draymond on the roster and just kind of figure out the rest of the roster from there. So yeah, man, I agree. Gentlemen swept Minnesota. They did it to us, and they moved on to face OKC. Kind of off the topic here. What are your thoughts about this series? Like, anything stood out to you in this series against Minnesota and OKC?
just kind of confirm what I already thought, right? I think Minnesota's offense is a little bit reliant on um a little bit reliant on that magnet ball that we saw. in
Yeah,
some of those games.
it
You
was
know, they
crazy,
don't have
man.
they don't have any high level creators. You know, and is on his way to becoming that, but he's not quite that yet.
Yeah.
I think his decision making can use a little bit more improvement. Um, so I just knew OKC's defense would strangle them, force them into some turnovers. Um, and then on the opposite end, Minnesota's defense, though it is a good one, I think it's a little bit overrated, right? Just like most Rudy Gobert led defenses in the playoffs, they can be manipulated in a way that kind of limits his effectiveness out there.
Right.
So yeah, it was just I knew that was going to happen. I anticipated OKC in five, um, and I figured it would be multiple blowout wins for them, and that's kind of what happened. So not really surprised by that.
Yeah, I had to agree, man. Like you said, the best a Rudy Gobert led defense. Like I did give him some credit for him making the all defensive team. He made all defensive second team, but I still feel like it was somebody out there more deserving of that. If I'm being honest, I feel like there was more so an award just to say, "Huh, here you go," because I don't think that he was that deserving of that. If I'm being honest, like this
Hmm.
happens every postseason. He is being targeted on the defensive side, like and
Hmm.
they're constantly rewarding this dude. He just got a 3 year contract extension. But when the season just started, and it's like this dude is constantly being played off the court. But
Yes.
it's just crazy to me though. But no, man, things definitely went in Minnesota favor against our Warriors. Like Julius Randle was playing on his fucking mind, bro. It was crazy, man. Like he was
Hmm.
serving Draymond. Like it was sort of like the Pascal Siakam thing in the finals. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I'll comment on that a little bit. It's like they definitely played well. They definitely, won that matchup when in terms of Pascal and in terms of Julius Randle. I do think, guys being out contributed to that. You know what I'm saying? Both situations, there's key offensive players out of the game. KD and Clay both went down in the 2019 finals. And both of those teams were very top heavy and didn't have a ton of depth. So when you
Hmm.
missing, not only you're missing great offensive players, and I made this point on Twitter earlier today. Great offensive players do make it easier for your team to defend because they take care of all the offense and you can focus on the defense. So if you're missing those players,
It makes
um,
sense.
yeah, now Draymond got to focus a little bit more on offense, more than he want to. He got to exert some energy to try to score and get other guys open. So he has a little bit less energy for defense. That's one thing.
Hmm.
Secondly, you're not scoring as much, so you're in transition a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's harder to play defense in transition. And then thirdly, the guys that are coming in for KD and Clay and for Steph are just not that great. You know what I mean? Because the team is not super deep. So you got players that are worse defenders than them too coming in the game. So you got to cover up for more people.
Hmm.
So I still definitely believe Draymond can anchor a championship level defense. He definitely lost this matchup in particular. Julius Randle was hitting a
Yeah.
lot of shots that he just didn't hit in the next round, which is a pretty good indication that it might have
Tell
been
you,
a little
man,
fake. Yeah, it might have
it's
been a little
crazy.
fake, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
it
it
happened.
was definitely fake. Like some of the shots Julius Randle was
Mhm.
hitting was just crazy. Like I'm
Yeah,
talking about like
deep
what? Like
threes. Hmm.
yes, like contesting threes, like Julius Randle out of all people is making shots like this. Like that was just crazy to me. But
Hmm.
any positive takeaway from this series for us, like moving forward, like did you anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, like I said, I still think this core is championship level.
Mhm.
I
That's
think
great.
Steph gives you a championship ceiling in terms of offense and overall. I think Draymond gives you a championship ceiling in terms of defense. Jimmy is a great two-way player that can kind of fill the gap in between both of them and blend both offense and defense at an extremely high level.
Yeah.
And I think you have a much clearer picture in what you need in terms of roster filling out,
Yeah,
right?
it makes sense. Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and
And,
also, no,
mhm.
you go ahead.
And I was going to say another major positive was um, how JK played,
Yeah,
both in terms of,
for sure.
the future. You can see what type of player he could be,
Hmm.
both, from the Warriors perspective and say, okay, if we can figure this thing out and get him to blend in,
Yeah.
then we can see a high ceiling for him, but also for the rest of the league to see like, okay, this kid can actually do something on the highest stage and play
Hmm.
well in a playoff setting against a defense that's, kind of trying to stop him. So maybe that can make him more attractive to other teams. I just think in general that raised his stock a lot across the league, which is a
Definitely.
major positive because him getting DMPs and stuff like that was not doing anyone any favors
I didn't. I
at all.
still don't understand to this day. I'm gonna be honest with
Mhm.
you, but no, man. Speaking of JK, that was my positive thing. Like the way he ended that series on a high note. From a personal standpoint, like he went out there and, like you said, raised his stock up. But to me, man, I don't know if he was one of those ones, but I seen some crazy things being said on Twitter, bro. Like somebody said that Pat Spencer was more deserving of playing than JK, and that was just crazy, mind blowing to me. Like, come on, like if it ever gets to that, like that's just hating on a dude. Like, with all due respect to Pat Spencer, he's a solid player, but
Mhm.
come on, bro, Kaminga is clearly way better than Pat Spencer. We're being honest here, bro. And when
Mhm.
I seen stuff like that, it's just kind of crazy to me. He went out there, he proved those guys wrong. Obviously, we came up short to go and win the series, but he left there with something, and that's good. So.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. That's the end of our season, man. Hey, man, we made it to the second round. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't even have us making it this far. Like that's just me being honest. We went out there and got Jimmy. That kind of changed my mindset a little bit, but I didn't want to get too ahead of myself because Draymond promised us a championship. When he said that, I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, Draymond. Like I know what it feels like to, I know when we have enough. I
Mhm.
didn't really have that feeling like I did in 22, to be more exact. So I was like, no, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, bro. It's definitely easier said than done. And you think he would know better out of all people to just say that statement. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I think we did leave here with some. We know what we got to do. We got to retool this roster, and this offseason should be interesting. So shifting gears over to the off season, man. I will say this, bro. Like the next day we got eliminated. I seen Bobby Marks say that we could potentially be interested in Brook Lopez. Me myself personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. But if you can
Mhm.
get him on a minimum, then it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. The reason I say I'm not a huge fan of that is because number one, he's getting up in age. I think he's going to be like 39 next year. And if you watch the Indiana series against Milwaukee, he kind of got exposed. He could not
Mhm.
keep up with those guys. Like even defensively, like he's still a solid rim protector. I get it to him, but if Brook Lopez isn't like knocking down shots, then he kind of does no good for anybody. If I'm being honest.
Mhm.
So talk to me, man, about the offseason. Like where your mind is shifting to? Like any trade targets out there, free agents that you got your eyes on?
Yeah, definitely younger players. I'm not a huge fan of the Brook Lopez acquisition if that's what they're going after. They
Yeah.
need to get guys that are prime aged, right? Their big three right now are all 35 plus. So you need a bunch of guys who are within that kind of like
Mm-hmm.
25 to 31 type of range. Um, so in terms of skill set, they definitely need more shooting just throughout the roster. Over the course of the offseason, it's been revealed to us that Moses Moody got hand surgery and Brandon Pajemski also got wrist surgery, both
Yep.
on their shooting hands. So that could have had something to do with them not being able to hit shots at the clip that they did in the regular season in the playoffs. But even still, you need more shooting. Like those guys can hit shots, but they're not shooters, right? You need some 40+% guys, higher volume, that can shoot it off the bounce, that can shoot it off the catch, off movement, stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
um, obviously, the big name that everybody's looking at is Cam Johnson. He was rumored to be linked to the Warriors at the trade deadline. Ultimately, neither team pulled the trigger on that one. But I think he's a guy that can really vault them up into true contention status because he's
Yeah.
one of those dudes that plays the same style or his skill set fits the Warriors system on
Mhm.
top of the talent being there as well, right? There's guys that fit that aren't super talented, and there's guys that are very talented that don't necessarily fit. I think he's both. He's also prime aged. He's also a big wing. He's not the best defender in terms of individual, but he's been on teams that's gone to the finals or been on a team that's gone to the finals, so he can play championship level
Yeah.
defense in a team setting.
Good team defender.
Yeah, and I mean he can fit in a lot of those clay actions in a way that Buddy Hield can't because he has the size to see over the defense to make those dump down passes that Clay used to make and things like that.
Mhm.
So he would be a huge get. He can also carry a regular season scoring load that Jimmy doesn't necessarily want to do. Jimmy likes to save himself for the playoffs. He likes to pass a lot in the regular season. So somebody like Cam can eat those shots up and be a 20 plus scorer in the regular season while Jimmy gets his 16 to 17
Yeah.
and then they kind of swap places in the playoffs. But
Yeah.
he's a, he's a guy. Kobe White's another guy
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, Kobe, yeah.
yeah, very similar, in terms of how they would fit. Just movement shooter that can carry the scoring load in a regular season. Obviously, he's a guard, and Cam Johnson is a wing, but literally same concept, right? Just come in there, score a lot, play team defense, and just when Steph ain't playing, you can run a little bit more offense through them, or with Steph's side of the
Mhm.
court, you can run a little bit more offense through them, and you won't completely fall off a cliff offensively if he's resting or something like that. So I think that's a huge need for them, and I think I would go for those two guys in particular first
Mhm.
and foremost.
Yeah,
One of those two.
yeah. What about any bigs out there? There was a wing and a guard that you named. So any bigs
Mhm.
out there?
Yeah, I definitely think they need a big that like if you look at the lineup data, whenever Draymond wasn't on the court, their defense kind of fell off a cliff. And I think that's because they don't have that center or backline defender that can keep their defense honest without Draymond out there. And also
Mhm.
Draymond just played a ton of center this season, like way too
Yeah,
much, way more than he
yeah,
should.
yeah. We're gonna talk about that too.
Yeah. So Goga Bitadze is a name that I've thrown out there a few times. He's making like 9 or 10 million in Orlando.
Yeah,
Orlando doesn't really need a plethora of bigs. They got Wendell out there. They got Jonathan Isaac who can play center. They got Paolo who you can go small and play center at sometimes. So
yeah.
he's a small contract. He's a solidified backup big. I don't think he's going to go out there and try to be like more than what he is. He's prime aged. He's a good defender. So I would go after him. If you kind of in that vet min or MLE range, I'll take a look at Steven Adams. He's a little bit getting up there in age, 32, 33, coming off Achilles. But we saw the impact that he can have on the boards and protecting the rim in that Houston series. Um, Somebody like that. I'm trying to think of some other names just off the top of my head. But yeah, they just need someone who can eat minutes at the center position, whether
Yeah.
it's starting or it's the first backup. And you get Draymond out of there quick at center and move him to the power forward. Just someone that can hold the fort down defensively and rebound when Draymond's not on the court, and even potentially with Draymond on the court, and just kind of have that Draymond Bogut type of dynamic again. That would
Yeah.
be huge for them in the regular season in particular.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to give Mike Dunleavy a lot of credit because one thing he has shown us in his, well, what is this, like his second year now? Going to this
Hmm.
offseason. For the 2 years he has been Warriors GM, he has shown that he is not afraid to pull the trigger if need to be. And I
Right.
will give him a lot of credit on that. So in saying that, I've been seeing a lot of people kind of advocate for Steven Adams. I'm not against that, but the thing is with that, it just makes it like a clunky fit if he's going to be the starting center on this team because
Mm.
Draymond not a high level 3 point shooter as well as Jimmy. So it's just like the front court of the team is just kind of going to be clunky. But I'm not against him being a backup on this team. So in saying that, we definitely gotta get a stretch big. Like Gogi, he can shoot the three. He's not probably like a high volume 3 point shooter, but he can shoot it. So
Mm.
I'll take that. So yeah, man. I have my eyes on Gogi, Steven Adams, potentially Andre Drummond. I know Andre Drummond wouldn't really cost a lot. You could probably get him on a vet minimum or something like that. But
Mm.
preferably a stretch big, and that's going to be kind of hard to come across. Maybe Luke Cornett. Maybe you can kind of get him for
Mo.
low. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, he's a pretty good rim protector. He can kind of shoot the three.
Hmm.
So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
even some trade targets like that. But it'll be interesting for sure. But you brought Kobe White to my attention, man, because I had really
Mm.
forgot about him. I was thinking about Kevin Herter because I've been hearing his name float around with the Warriors or whatever. He is a shooter. Defensively, he's not that good, if I'm being honest. But
Right.
I don't know how they would kind of make that work, but hey, man, Warriors. This culture is known for making guys play defense. I mean, look at Buddy Hill. Like, I gotta
I
give Buddy
know.
a lot of credit, bro. Like, Buddy has been strapping up all season. Like, as much as people criticize his shooting defensively, though, bro, he's been holding his own. And you can
Yeah.
say the same with Andrew Wiggins. Like, before Andrew Wiggins came here, bro, he was not known as a defender in his league. But
Hmm.
when he came over to the Warriors, like he kind of flipped that narrative and locked in into being called two-way Wigs. When you get a name like that, you earned that name. So it's
Yeah.
saying that maybe we can get a guy like Kevin Herter and just get him to buy in defensively. Potentially get a package of him and Kobe White. Because initially my mind shifted to Malik Monk. And I was like, man, we get somebody like Malik Monk, low ball Sacramento, then
Hmm.
hey, I think he'd be a great addition off the bench. Just providing that shot creation because we need more shot creators on this team, bro. Like
Definitely.
with Steph Curry getting up in age, Jimmy getting up in age, we can't rely on these guys to kind of generate all the offense. So in
Hmm.
saying that, you kind of banking on pause to take that leap, but why do that when we could just go out there and get solidified bucket getters like Malik Monk, to your point, Kobe White. Heck, even maybe a Colin Sexton, maybe even a Jordan Clarkson. You know, it just depends on what their asking price is for those guys. But nah, man, if we can go out there and get like those types of players, like another shot creator, um, a stretch big, sort of like rim protector,
Hmm.
and probably more like another wing defender, like a high level wing defender. I think they will be all right. Which leads me to like the point with Draymond at the center, bro. I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like those days has to be over. Like he can close. Don't get me wrong. He can close the game depending on the matchup at the five. But just
Hmm.
starting him at the five, bro, it just makes no sense to me at this stage of his career. And he
Hmm.
just talked about on his podcast, bro, like being matched up against bigger guys like the Joker, Zach Edey, Joel Embiid, Jared Allen. The list goes on and on, bro. It's not easy, bro, and it can get frustrating. And a player like Draymond, bro, he's never going to back down, and he's kind of shown that. But he's too valuable to this team to just kind of get him to, get in foul trouble early or just get
Hmm.
thrown off his square. So yeah, man, we got to definitely work on getting the center for sure.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, as he alluded to in his on his pod, it affects different areas of the game, right? You just got more tired legs as the game goes on, and then that don't just reset each game. It's a cumulative fatigue that just adds up over time. And by the
That's a
time you get
fact.
to the playoffs, and you've been playing center, starting at center and playing it for 25 plus minutes a game
Mhm.
for 2-3 months before the playoffs even starts, you're gonna have series like Houston where he can't hit a shot. You're gonna have series like Minnesota where he can't hit a shot, or he can hit a shot in the first quarter, and then by the time the third quarter, fourth quarter come around, he can't hit a shot.
Right.
Not that they necessarily are banking on him being able to score 15, 20 a game, but that stuff matters in a playoff setting. That stuff is like it's a possession by possession type of thing. So, um, and it affects his legs on defense. That's why he's a little bit slower closing out to a Julius Randle and all this other stuff. So
Right.
they definitely need a center. Um, if you're going to go for a starting center, like you said, it has to be a center that can like probably score from the outside.
Have
Otherwise,
to.
the fit is a little bit clunky.
Have to.
Um, but otherwise, you need someone that can at least say, okay, Draymond, you might be starting the first 3 minutes at center, but you coming out quick, or like we making a sub quick and we getting a real center in there, so you don't got to play most of your minutes at center.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because I'm
Another
be
name.
honest, like I think Steve Kerr really abused that too, though. I really do think that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he probably felt like he had no choice, right? Trace regressed from his from his rookie to his sophomore season in a way. He kind of picked it up a little bit in the Minnesota series, but yeah,
Hmm.
and then Quentin Post kind of showed his lack of experience in the postseason. How
Definitely.
he was the physicality got to him a little bit, and Looney is just not as mobile as he used to be, and that affects all of his game. So
Hmm.
they definitely need a center that Steve will trust, uh, preferably somebody that can hit a shot from the outside. That would cover a lot of issues for sure. But if
Yeah.
it's not that, it just needs to be somebody that Steve Kerr can trust in the way that he used to trust Kevon Looney
Hmm.
a couple years back. And I think Quentin Post can eat a lot of minutes at least in the regular season at center too. He was very positive for them in terms of hitting shots and stuff like that. So
Yeah, he was.
yeah, so I think that's a good big rotation. If you can get another really good center in there, you got Quentin Post and you got Draymond when need be. And I think you kind of solidified a big man spot there.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like when you look at this starting lineup, I think that kind of constructed like the only three guaranteed starters going to training camp is Steph, Jimmy, and Drake.
Right.
So it's saying that like the shooting guard position and the center position, they have to be respectable from 3 point range because Draymond, like, they're not going to like if he hits, that's cool. Like they're
Right.
living with that. That's what they want. Jimmy is not going to shoot a ton of threes. If he's open, he might shoot it, but that's not really what he care to do. And we already obviously we know what Steph can do from 3 point range, but it's saying that you have to go out there and get, to your point, somebody that's respectable from 3 point range and they can score from the center position and from the two guard pretty much the same way, just not being able to knock down shots. Which you look at a guy like Cam Johnson in this system, he's a two guard. Like
Right.
for Brooklyn, he's like a 3 or 4, but he easily will be a two guard in this system because, like you said, we'll be running the same action for him like we did with Clay. back
Hmm.
then. So yeah, man. But nah, man. Free my question to close this out, bro. When we go into as we head into the off season, who are like the untouchables on this team?
Um, Steph. I mean, yeah,
Obviously,
Steph is the ultimate untouchable. Like Steph is the I don't care who you put on the table unless it's like Wembanyama. Even then, it's like Steph is a legend for this franchise. So I mean,
hmm
obviously that would never be offered, but still. So Steph is the ultimate untouchable. Jimmy and Draymond are in that unless it's Giannis, he untouchable type of range.
hmm
Um, and then everybody else is up for grabs. I wouldn't say up for grabs, but like
yeah, I feel
if
you.
the deal makes sense, I
Yeah,
don't think anybody else is on that untouchable list. So yeah, that's how I look
yeah,
at it.
yeah. I agree. Sean Serrano said it best. He thinks that this is going to be the craziest off season ever. I agree because I think that the trade deadline set the tone for the off season. Like that was the craziest trade deadline I've ever been a part of. Like just
Mm,
seeing all these trades takes like the way things like the Luca trade, like Jimmy coming over. It was just a crazy trade deadline, bro. Like from
hmm.
top to bottom, it was so many trades been going down. And yeah, I agree with that. But last question, man. When you look at Kevon Looney, he's been with this franchise what 10 years now, 11 years, I think 10 for sure.
Yeah,
And he's a valuable piece to this team. Like he's won like what 3 championships with us. I don't think he was a part of all four. I could be wrong.
he
No, I
wasn't
think
there, he wasn't there for 2015.
okay. So yeah, he's been a part with 3 championships. He's valuable. He's well respected, highly ranked in his organization. Gary Payton, not necessarily to the degree of Looney, but they value him a lot, and it shows because there was times where he was getting minutes, but I felt like he shouldn't have. But the
Mm.
fact of the matter is, the question I'm trying to ask you is, do you think any of those guys is worthy of coming back at this stage of their career?
Yeah, vet men. If you need to fill out the roster, like if it's a situation where they get pushed out because you're bringing in multiple guys or something like that, then it's like, thank you for your services. But otherwise, I do think there's value in the fact that they are good locker room guys. There's value in the fact that they know the system. Um, so let's say you got to send out somebody to make space, like you bringing in a center. So you don't want to have Looney and Trace and Post and the new center out there.
Right.
I think they would be okay with sending Trace out and keeping Looney. I think I would be okay with that as well. Like I like Trace, but if he's not going to provide the value that we need from him, and if another team finds his upside more attractive, then he might have to go, and then you can keep Looney there because we know Looney is going to at least, like I said, screen, know the system, and he had a couple moments in the playoffs as well where he
Yeah,
played
he
where he
did.
played
He
well,
did. He
and
did.
Gary did too. It's just they can't do it on a game by game basis like they used to,
No, that's the
So
problem.
yeah, so like if you knock them down the depth chart and say, okay, you the third string, like Looney, you are a break glass in case of emergency. Like if one of our centers is hurt, you can come in. We know we trust you. Same thing with Gary. If one of our wings is hurt or not playing particularly well, we're gonna throw you out there and see if you can like impact the game because you
Mhm.
know how to cut off Steph, you know how to screen and all that type of stuff. I think that's value. But if they trying to get like MLE or something like
Yeah.
that, I don't even
Yeah.
think they expect that. I think they
They
expect
shouldn't.
vet
They should.
men. We just back of the roster at this point. I think there's value in that. They can
Yeah.
kind of be like the in that JTA Damian Lee type of realm.
hmm
Whereas like they just there for the vibes. And if you need me, I know this system like the back of my hand. I think that's cool for them.
Yeah. And if that is the case, it isn't the end of the world, right? Over the course of an 82 game season, guys are going to go down, and that's when
Hmm.
a guy like Luna can step up. To your point, he knows the system. He's been here long enough. Same thing with GP2. He knows how things go around here. So it's not really the worst thing in the world. Like, I'm pretty sure they'll be open to accepting the minimum. I don't really, when I look at those guys' market, I don't just see it being more than that. If I'm being honest, like I would be kind of
Right.
shocked if teams were to offer more than a minimum. If I'm being honest, like,
Hmm.
but yeah, man, GP2, he's just not what he used to be defensively, bro. Like, he just gets blown by every possession. Like
Hmm.
some would try to come to his defense in that, but bro, I'm watching this with my own 2 eyes, bro. He's getting blown by every possession. Like when we won that championship back in 22, bro, that man defense was
You
crazy,
couldn't dribble
bro.
in front of him. You
No,
couldn't.
you couldn't.
He
Like
was
he was
taking it.
arguably the best point of attack defender in the league. Like
Yeah. Yeah, he was taking the ball. If you dribbled more than 2 times in front of him, he was taking it.
Yeah, like, and this same thing with Looney though, bro. Like Looney, he definitely regressed for sure. Like Looney, he was one of those guys that can get you every offensive rebound. Like
Hmm.
he's getting you a lot of second chance opportunities. High IQ playmaker. That was always to me the most underrated part of Looney's game was his playmaking ability. Like the way he make plays out the pocket. You know, he just understands this system to the T. Like so,
Yeah.
yeah, man, it'd be interesting to see like how things go. I know I ain't gonna lie to you, but I thought last year Looney was gone. I thought they was going to trade him and GP2,
Mm.
because of that number. I don't think that they was just worth it. Like I think Looney coming out for 8 million and GP2 coming out for $9 million contract. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just didn't think it was worth it for sure. But nah, man, the is gonna be interesting for sure. Any last thing you would like to say before we get out of here? Or,
Um, no, I hope that those guys can stay healthy because I
mhm,
do think they got a legitimate shot. People look at OKC and say, well, everybody that's on their roster now is on their roster for next season as well.
mhm.
So, they kind of set up in a way to have a dominant extended run. Um, you know, People throw the dynasty word out there too loosely, but they have a chance to build upon potentially winning the championship this year and going forward. But I do think the Warriors pose a major threat to them if they can fill the roster out in a way that makes sense. Add some
Mhm.
more shooting, add some more size, add some more offensive versatility. Because Steph is still that level of player, and
Yeah,
you
Steph's
never
gonna
know
be
what can
Steph.
happen. And you also never know what can happen. This season, the injury flipped the series not in our favor,
Mhm.
and anything can happen next year. You don't know who's going to be healthy. You don't know, So approach the off season with the right mentality, fill out the roster well, and I think they can get another one.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
My my confidence is still high. I think we can go out there and get one more championship.
Hmm.
It's a lot you have to consider. Like, bro, if I'm being honest, our playoffs started in February. Like when we got
Exactly.
Jimmy, we was like the 11th seed.
Hmm.
So in saying that, bro, like we had to win a lot of games to get to this point that we at now. Where was that? So yeah, like those guys, they're gonna need the rest. Which is why it's important for us to hit on everything that we do this off season. Like we're gonna need like a lot of youth to kind of like carry us through the regular season. We shouldn't just lean on Steph a lot, Draymond and Jimmy a ton in the regular season. Let's just try to get those guys to the playoffs and just let them do their thing. And obviously, pray and hope for health. And
Hmm.
yeah, go from there. So yeah, man. But nah, man, we'll probably link up again. Depending on how the off season goes, see what the Warriors do, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, man. Make sure you guys follow my guy Justin at the Package JG on X, as well as myself at R2R30111. And yeah, appreciate you guys always for tapping in. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that being said, we out. Peace.
Peace.